Buenos dias. Unfortunately, that ends the Spanish portion of my talk today. And trust
Ya hice
me,
la parte en español de
you do not want me
mi
to try this in your language.
participación.
My name is Eric.
Mi
I'm from
nombre
San
es
Francisco.
Eric, soy de San Francisco.
Like many of you who are aspiring to or actually are doing it, my dream was to be an entrepreneur. But we got a little coaching on how to give a good TED Talk last night. I'm somebody who doesn't like to boil things down to one idea, despite the fact that I make soap, which is a very simple product. So in the spirit of TED and ideas worth sharing, the idea that I want to share with you is a very simple one, which is don't just start a business, start a cause. And I like to say that when I went out to start a business, I was noble enough that I wanted to start a company that was not only good for me financially, but good for the world. But that wasn't my motive. My motive was to create something. I came from an advertising background. I loved working on brands. I loved design. And what I wanted to do was have the opportunity to create something from scratch. But along the way, I learned that the greatest reward of doing this was not the monetary or the financial. It was ultimately the impact that we could have in a broader context. So I'd love to share with you a little bit of my story. This is my business partner, Adam Lowry. We grew up together in the Detroit area in Michigan, which is the Motor City. Both of our families were entrepreneurs in the automotive space. My great-grandfather actually moved from Iowa to Detroit to work for Henry Ford for $5 a day. Ultimately saved enough money that he and my grandfather, who dropped out of college, started an automotive business. So both of us came from entrepreneur path. And we ended up roommates here in San Francisco in arguably what was the dirtiest flat in San Francisco. So this was not supposed to be the birthplace of a cleaning revolution by any means. We lived with 5 guys. We threw great parties, but we were not known for our cleanliness. And the two of us decided to start a business together. And I came from an advertising design background, as I mentioned, and Adam came from a very different background. He worked at the Carnegie Institute on climate change. He was an environmental engineer, chemical engineer by trade, so he was definitely the smarter one between the two of us. And if we weren't friends, there was no way our paths would ever have crossed professionally. And we know, since Steve Jobs has been referenced many times today, one of the things Steve Jobs always talks about is connecting the dots. And so it was our friendship that allowed us to connect the dots on a bigger business opportunity. But the way we started was very different than how most entrepreneurs get started. We did not have an idea. And coming from a consumer background in advertising, I understood one thing, which was cultural shifts in how consumers think. So what I started doing is looking for a space to disrupt. And I looked here first in the grocery store. Again, I don't have a passion for cleaning. My wife wishes I'd bring more of my work home with me. And I started looking at this space, even though it is such a cluttered, competitive. I mean, the first multinationals of the world were soap companies, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Cow. But even though it's such a hyper-competitive space, I felt there was white space here, an opportunity to go in and do it differently because everything was so similar. So that was the clue dig here. And as we dug in, we realized there was 2 major cultural shifts that the category had missed. The first was this idea of lifestyling of the home. And this was me bringing my kind of design passion to it. Nobody was thinking about a household cleaner as an accessory to the home. And the way we cleaned has changed. We're not deep cleaning our homes. We're wiping down counters before and after a meal. So I wanted to design something that was just simply beautiful enough you leave it out on the counter, more convenient to use, but also capture that emotion of the home. But as we dug into it, we found a second cultural shift, which was more profound, which was this idea of health and wellness. And living in Northern California, it's kind of the epicenter. I think we were kitty corner from a Whole Foods. So you could see this coming from a mile away, and we just thought it was really bizarre that you pollute when you clean, that you use poison to make your home healthier, and why are we all drinking organic milk but yet using pesticides to clean our kitchen in the form of an anti-bac cleaner? And suddenly we realized that cleaning was actually a very dirty business, and that really inspired us to go in and try to do it differently. But we had this problem, which is the second you talk to a consumer about a green cleaner, they would say, green doesn't clean. it was widely believed, and it was true, that a green cleaner would never work as well as a toxic synthetic cleaner. We had another problem too, which is when you would go in and we had to raise capital to start this business, and you would tell a potential investor, we're going to take on some of the biggest multinationals of the world who have had a 100-year head start. They dominate the space, and we're going to do it in a niche of a niche of a niche. It's not financially very attractive. So we had to figure out, both for our mission of what we wanted to do, which was get toxicity out of the home and out of our environment, we had to figure out, how do you get the mainstream into green? So we did what anybody would do. We put naked people in our ads. We actually did this for a point because we wanted to show that our products are so safe you can actually clean in the nude if you choose, and nothing's going to burn. But we also realized that it would be so much easier to get people to come into a green cleaner if we actually made it fun. And instead of preaching to the converted and talking about why you should use a green cleaner because it's the best choice for society as a whole, we essentially tried to make it selfish and try to sell the experience of it. And so, in essence, we created a Trojan horse, but a Trojan horse for positive change. We don't give a damn if you buy our products because it's healthy for your home, safe for your children, or good for the environment. We sell a product that is great design, great fragrance, a great experience, a fun brand. And people come into a green cleaner not even knowing it's green. In the beginning, we actually hid it in the back of the bottle. Finally, we brought it out front. But by doing so, we profoundly changed the green cleaner category and grew it in 7 years in America from a zero to $100 million of our brand in just 7 short years. Now, it probably helped that this was our first dish soap, which coincidentally looks like a sex toy. But we take all the help we can get. And essentially what we did was we created this brand around this idea, this philosophy of people against dirty. And we fell in love with elevating our work to a higher purpose. And when, along the way, we learned how important this was. First of all, for attracting talent and attracting people into your cause. This was a company photo from the summer in San Francisco. We're a bit of a weird company. We do a prom every year. And this was during the business portion of that day. And one of our cultural values is weird because weird people change the world. Weird is about thinking and looking and doing things differently. So we're a bit of a weird organization. But we also realize that when people come to work, not to purely make money, but for a higher purpose, it elevates the quality of our work, our level of happiness, and our engagement. And so we've learned along the way that everything starts with a culture and building a great culture. We have offices in Chicago and London. This is our headquarters in San Francisco. When you walk into our lobby, we designed our lobby for our Monday huddle. At 9 a.m. every week, we never miss a week, we have an all-company meeting, and a different person steers that. And it's our way of constantly grounding ourselves into our mission, our culture, our values, and why we come to work that week. We take the same approach in our marketing. When you're building a mission and you have a higher purpose, marketing is nothing more than asking for participation. So in everything we're doing, we're asking our consumers, which we call advocates, to participate with us. So this was an example that we did last year, which were called pop shops. And it's not easy trying to make a store out of the subject of cleaning and making it interesting. But what we did is, if you brought in a bag of toxic cleaners, kind of like gun amnesty, we would give you a bag of non-toxic cleaners. And so everything we do is asking you to join and convert and do something differently. And it's the entire way we think about the company. So while our products don't wear the uniform of green and they don't look like a cliche green cleaner, we're very light green on the outside is the way we refer to it. But inside, we're incredibly dark green. So for example, over the last several years, we've been pioneering biodiesel shipments. So in North America, 80% of all our products are delivered via biodiesel trucks. We're going to get that to 100% soon. We're the first to make bottles purely out of non-virgin plastic. We just figured there was so much plastic in the world, we would use that plastic versus making more. But we have this mantra too, which is progress, not perfection. We never stop. And this was kind of an example that we're working on right now. like a lot of companies, we do volunteer days. And being in California, one of the more popular volunteer days is to go clean up the beach. And our team was looking at all of this stuff that they would collect off of a beach, and it seemed like such a bummer to send it to a landfill. So they started trying to figure out, okay, what can we do with this? How can we repurpose it? So we're launching later this year our first bottles made out of ocean plastic. So in that photo, that's actually our laundry detergent product with plastic that is made completely from plastic that was pulled off of a beach that was in the ocean. It's actually quite beautiful. The stuff around it, that's the type of plastic we're using. And as it's been in the ocean and worn down, it's just gorgeous the way it comes out. But we've been able to figure out how to turn this into something practical again. Now, economically, it makes no sense. This is the world's most expensive bottle. And we like to do things that actually have a tangible solution. But in this case, we're really trying to bring attention to the problem in this reality right now of how much plastic is in our oceans. We're a very, very product-centric company. That's why we like solutions. But we always say we don't sell products, we sell a philosophy. And this philosophy of people against dirty. And part of that is to find monsters. You know, monsters are things that are bad for a community, bad for a society. It's a common enemy between us and our advocates. And we look at this lens when we go to create products. So we try to find what is a monster. So for example, our surface cleaners, the monster is toxicity. So we came up with non-toxic cleaners that work just as well as the toxic ones. And laundry, we started looking at the cap as the monster. And it's a little different here in your country that things are smaller, but in America, you know, bigger is better, right? And so we had these gigantic jugs of laundry detergent with these caps that are very mysterious. Line 1, which is the line you're supposed to pour to, is always at the bottom at the cap, and it's very hard to see. And so what happens, we all overdose. We use too much laundry detergent, which is bad for the environment because we're putting these extra chemicals into our waterways. It's bad for your machine because it gunks them up. It's bad for your clothes because it leaves residue. And it's bad for your health because that residue rubs up against your skin 12 hours a day, which of course is how patch medicine looks like. So we identified this as our monster, and we went out to try to innovate against this. So we had this genius idea. We were going to create this little perfect laundry pill. And it was going to be this simple little pill in this beautiful form factor that you would just throw in the machine. And we spent almost 2 years trying to perfect this. And we got really close. So we finally got to the point where the formula inside worked really, really well, but it would take too long to dissolve in cold water. And so we ultimately failed. And we started looking at this thing, trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with it? And we quickly realized that we could take what was inside this pill and simply put it into a pump. And so we launched this last year. And because our formulation team, our scientists, are called green chefs, because our green chefs went down this very strange, different road, they ultimately came up with a solution that we would never have thought of. So this little bottle does the same amount of laundry as a giant jug, but we were able to get rid of the cap so you can easily control it, so it always makes sure you use the right amount. Takes away all the mess, but the formula itself is 95% naturally derived. So by far, it's not only the world's most efficient laundry detergent, but it's also the world's greenest laundry detergent. And for a little company with nothing more than 4 scientists, going up against organizations with 4,000 scientists, we were incredibly, incredibly proud of this. And I don't think we would ever have done it if we always looked through this lens of our mission, our values, finding monsters, and trying to find a slay these monsters. So what I want to leave with you is this idea of building businesses that are bigger than just pure profit. And I know this country is doing a remarkable job of inspiring entrepreneurs and trying to create the next great generation of entrepreneurs. And we live in such a wonderful time to be a social entrepreneur thanks to social media. And where old mediums really benefited those companies that just had a single attribute idea and could just force it into the marketplace, we now live in a world where consumers, they don't want to just buy a product, they want to buy an idea, and they want to get behind that idea. And they now have the tools to help spread that idea. So It's a wonderful time to be a social entrepreneur. I think it's a wonderful time to be in your country to be an entrepreneur. And imagine the impact you guys can have on the world if you just didn't start businesses for pure profit, but businesses that made the world a better place. Thank you.